Be seated.
Gracias.
My pleasure to welcome you to the Directors Forum with the President of the Republic of Colombia, Woodrow or Uribe. Mr. President, we welcome you to the Center. I also welcome the Colombia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jaime Bermudez, the Minister of Trade, Luis Guillermo Plata, Colombia's Ambassador to the United States, Carolina Barco, the Minister of Finance, Oscar Ivan Zuluga, and I am told there are several ambassadors in our group. We certainly welcome them here. I've also been informed that Hattie Babbitt is here. Yes, I see her, former ambassador. We're delighted to have her. And I'm not sure whether former Congressman Jim Colby is with us or not. I don't see him, but he's expected to be here. We welcome each of our distinguished guests, and of course, we welcome the President. I want to thank this event's co-sponsors, the Inter-American Dialogue and the Council of the Americas, represented here today by the Dialogue President, Peter Hakim, and the Council's Vice President, Eric Farnsworth. President Uribe was first elected president in 2002. He inherited tremendous challenges. Decades of violence had plagued his country. But under his leadership, over the last 7 years, Colombia has made remarkable strides towards peace, security, stability, and prosperity. He expanded the armed forces. He oversaw the demobilization of over 30,000 paramilitary fighters. The FARC and the ELN have suffered more than 10,000 defections and numerous setbacks at the hands of government forces, including the rescue of 3 United States citizens and several other hostages nearly a year ago. In 2006, the Colombian people demonstrated their support by re-electing the president by an impressive 62% margin. And his high public approval rating remains the envy of politicians across the world. All this has coincided with the strengthening of bilateral relations between Bogota and Washington. And while Colombia continues to face significant challenges, they are challenges that Washington and Bogota can work together to overcome, as all Colombians seek to build upon the gains of recent years, strengthen their democracy, and contribute to a brighter future for not just their own country, but the hemisphere. Under Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, the bilateral relationship between the United States and Colombia has grown by leaps and bounds, and it is our expectation that this trend will continue under President Obama. Born in Medellin, the president's tenure as president caps a distinguished career in public service. In 1976, he served as head of the Real Estate Office of the Public Works Department of Medellin. He went on to serve as Secretary General of the Labor Ministry, head of the Civil Aviation Department, mayor of Medellin, and 2 much heralded terms as senator and governor of Antioquia. He holds a law degree from the University of Antioquia, as well as a postgraduate degree from Harvard. He's also an associate professor. He was at Oxford University. He's married, has 2 sons. Mr. President, thank you for coming to the Wilson Center, and we look forward to your comments. After he speaks, there will be an opportunity for questions and answers. Mr. President.
Mr. Lee Hamilton, President of the Wilson Center, Mr. Peter Hakim, President of the Inter-American Dialogue, my colleagues in government, Ambassador Barco, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for my colleagues and for me to be here this morning in this very important think tank. I want to express our gratitude for this invitation. Every day, I repeat before my fellow country citizens one very simple phrase, and I do my best to repeat it morning by morning, evening by evening, because I understand that every government has the duty to convince the fellow citizens about the necessity to have important and at the same time simple goals. The goal we are looking for in Colombia is to convert Colombia into a country with the highest level of confidence. Confidence is the key word leading our country. And we support confidence upon three pillars: security with democratic values, investment with social responsibility, and social cohesion. We consider that the only way for a country, such as the case of Colombia, to advance in overcoming poverty, in creating a civil community with a better income distribution, is through prosperity. And prosperity depends, in the case of Colombia, on security and on investment. Security with democratic values, investment with social responsibility. About security, I want not to make you feel fed up with numbers this morning. We have improved, but we need much more improving. We accept the progress we have made, and we accept that we need to do much more. This morning I want to take advantage of this extraordinary audience to explain some non-accounting, some intangible results we have gotten in our policy of democratic security. First, we have recovered two monopolies the state should have never lost. We have recovered the state monopoly to fight criminals. We have dismantled the paramilitary organization. The word paramilitary was chosen in Colombia to name private criminal gangs established to fight guerrillas. Today, only the armed forces in our country fight any kind of criminals. We have criminals dedicated to narco-trafficking, and we have narco-guerrillas, guerrillas in narco-trafficking. In some areas of the country, they are together. They share the profits of narco-trafficking. In other areas, they fight one to the other in a very mafiosi relationship. When they are friends or when they are enemies, they have a mafiosi relationship. They fight because they want to appropriate the profits of narco-trafficking, or they share these profits in friendly mafiosi agreements. But what is important to highlight this morning is that our government has recovered for the state the monopoly to fight criminals. Second, we have recovered the state monopoly to exercise justice. During many years, in many areas of the country, the justice administration, parentheses, the justice administration is totally independent in Colombia from the executive branch. The justice administration have been displaced and replaced. In many areas of the country, the general prosecutors, the judges, have been replaced by terrorist guerrillas, by terrorist paramilitaries, by the ringleaders of these organizations who try to exercise illegal justice, who usurp the rights of our democratic justice administration. Colombia has recovered this monopoly. It is very important for our countries. Prior to this policy, Colombians were afraid to propose any denounce. Today, Colombians have recovered confidence to denounce. Colombians today denounce every crime. We have many more denouncements than prior to this administration. It has been very important. And my government is open and receptive. Quite often, the Minister of Defense, the High Command in the police, in the military, and I as President, quite often we go live on TV to receive questions, claims, blames from the people. For instance, regarding the behavior of our soldiers and policemen in human rights. And we do our best to clarify, to make clear every case. I consider this is a very unique case in the world, and I want to share this experience with you. Colombians have recovered confidence. I remember that there was a growing trend of fellow citizens who were looking to provide themselves with security by their own means. Today, Colombians are more likely to resort to the institutions in looking for the provision of security. We have advanced in this regard. Victims. Prior to this policy, victims did not bring their claims because they found it useless and they were afraid. Today, we have more than 220,000 victims who have come to the registration office and are waiting for reparation. We have advanced a lot in the process to repay victims. In the middle of these fiscal constraints, this year alone, my government is going to spend $100 million to begin the process to repay the victims. This is what I call the monetary component of reparation. I understand that it is impossible to give complete reparation, but I understand that any effort to repair victims is a good step in the right direction to prevent our people from hatred, to create conditions, social conditions, for total reconciliation in our country. Many countries in Latin America that did face challenges in security adopted martial legislation to confront this problem. Colombia has faced the most dangerous challenge. The most dangerous because our terrorist groups have been very wealthy. given that they are the owners of the narco-trafficking businesses. They are very rich, they are autonomous, they do not need funds from the international community. Our government has confronted this challenge with ordinary legislation, with all the respect to political rights, to civil rights, to the fundamental rights in our Constitution. We have not imposed martial legislation to confront this challenge. We have not suppressed free for the media. We have not suspended freedoms. Many people opposing my government who used to live overseas because they were afraid to stay in Colombia, now during our administration, they have come back to Colombia. They criticize the government. They enjoy all the freedoms, and they enjoy all the protection. We have 10,000 Colombians with individual protection provided by the government. 2,000 are trade union leaders. This year, the Ministry of Finances in its budget needs to spend $45 million to budget this project of individual protection. In the economy, what do we mean by social responsibility? Social responsibility is transparency in the relationships between the government and the investors. Transparency in taxes, in contracts, in negotiations, conciliation of legal disputes, transparency. Every contract my government assigns is discussed in public audiences. We have advanced a lot in this regard. Social responsibility requires a great effort from the government to make investors to respond positively to requirements from the community. For instance, in the regions where Colombia produces coal, the government urges the producers to be aware of the environmental issues. We have seen confrontations, political confrontations, between the investors and the community. We have not disregarded the community claims, and we have not created obstacles for investors. What we have done is to call both parties and to advance in a constructive dialogue for creating conditions for producers of coal to move forward with their activities and at the same time to be receptive to answer the expectations of the community. The country is full of examples of the outcome of this dialogue my government has promoted in some areas of the country with all the dedication. Social responsibility is fraternity in the relationships between employers and workers. Colombia rejects wild capitalism, untamed capitalism, and Colombia rejects social class hatred. Every day we look for fraternity in the relationships between employers and workers. Social responsibility is to realize that capital is a question for social wealth, not for speculation. My country and our government have given investors all the guarantees to establish and to prosper in Colombia under the condition of social responsibility. We do not share the idea of hostility regarding investors that prevails in some areas of our continent. We are totally friendly with investors. We need investment in Colombia. Investment with social responsibility is the only way for my country to prosper, to overcome poverty, and to improve income distribution. The rate of investment has passed during our administration from 12-14% in the last years. We have had 24, 25, 28. Even during this year, in the middle of this economic crisis, during the first quarter, we had an investment rate of 25%. Foreign direct investment. In the past, the average was in between 500 million, 1 billion, 1.5. During the last years, we have had 8.5, 6.5, 9.028, last year 10 billion, 564 million. This year, until June the 5th, we had 3 billion 333 million. We have had a decrease of 16% in relation with the same period of last year, but in the comparison with the international trend, our economy has performed this year comparatively well in the capacity to attract foreign direct investment. We have introduced many structural reforms, but every day we consider that we need to adjust our framework to advance with new reforms. It is necessary to have a clear goal. What do you want to reach? Where is the place you want your country to arrive in? It is necessary to have the clarity about the goals and at the same time to introduce adjustments. We say we refuse stagnation and we refuse brusque changes. We share the idea of introducing adjustments every day within the line, looking for the big goal. So far we have reformed 427 state agencies, 427. You don't imagine how difficult it has been. For instance, we introduced one labor reform, one pension reform, and the possibility for the private sector to capitalize the state-owned corporation for oil. You don't imagine how difficult it was. Not because of technical difficulties, but because of political obstacles. In this environment that is the predominant in my Latin American subcontinent. But we have advanced a lot. We have not dismantled the state, but we have reformed, we have restructured many state institutions. And it has contributed to create value. It has contributed to improve the services for the community. For instance, if you visit Bogotá, our capital city, you see that we have transformed the public hospitals that used to belong to the National Agency for Social Security. They were a disaster prior to this administration, and now with the reform, they have improved a lot. Now we have many reforms for the coming month. One reform that is going on in Congress is the new law to introduce much more speed in the provision of the justice administration. We are in the process to create a great level of consensus with the independent justice administration for Congress to finally approve the reform. In the coming 3 weeks, my government is going to issue the decrees to produce a deep restructure in the National Agency for Intelligence to cure this agency of its endemic problems. I hope that in the coming 3 weeks, my fellow country citizens and the international community will see this decrease. We continue in the process of introducing reforms for the better off of my country. In the chapter of social cohesion, I want to refer only to some aspects. In education, we have passed in coverage in basic education from 78 to 100% in the vast majority of the country. In middle education from 57 to 78. We had, prior to this administration, less than 1 million university students. Today we are reaching 1,700,000. Before, we lent money to 60,000 university students. Today, we have almost 300,000 borrowers just in this project. We have advanced a lot in vocational training. Colombian has the leading institution in the subcontinent for vocational training. This institution is funded by a tax on the payroll of 2 points paid by employers. This year, this institution should provide vocational training to 6 million Colombians. And this institution is working in foreign countries to assist them in this field. This institution now is reaching 1 million Colombians as students to learn English as a second language through internet with free tariff. We are doing our best to overcome other problems. For instance, my country has advanced a lot in child nutrition, but we lag behind in coverage in education for those under 6. In many areas of the country, because of the advances in coverage in education, coverage has overrun infrastructure. Therefore, today we lag behind in infrastructure. In the main cities, we have advanced a lot in connectivity, not yet in the rural communities. However, our idea is that by August next year, the country will have connectivity for 80% of the total students in the state schools. Colombia has completed 41 million people with health insurance. 41 million people. We have 46. But I recognize we have problems. Because the insurance for those in the informal economy has less coverage than the insurance for those in the formal economy. Step by step, my government our country has to raise the coverage for those in the informal economy. We have transformed many hospitals, but we still have many hospitals in bad shape in the country. Distinguished friends, we have made progress, but we recognize that we have much more to do. Colombia suffered a rate of poverty close to 60. 40%. Today we are in between 37 and 43. But the rate of social investment of the budgetary resources has increased a lot. Today, 2,700,000 poor families receive a subsidy from the government every 2 months for them to guarantee their children's school attendance. We have advanced a lot to provide the poor Colombians with full coverage in education and with free tuition. We have a program this year to confront this economic crisis. We have 4 charters: infrastructure, the net of social protection, the efforts to finance the government and to finance employers, and one key component to preserve investment confidence in our country, because we want to convert Colombia into the most attractive country for domestic and international investors to invest in with social responsibility. I know you have questions, comments, disagreements, and I have to be ready to take them. Thank you. And now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. I did not recognize and should have a little earlier. We have 2 distinguished former ambassadors here. I see Tim Towell and John Negroponte are here. We're delighted to have them. We'll open up for questions. We'll begin with you.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. My name is Richard Dawson. I'm from Dawson Associates International Inc. I want to...
Would you take the microphone?
As I was telling you, my name is Richard Dawson. I am from Dawson Associates International Inc. First of all, I want to congratulate you for your brilliant exposition. It's very well balanced. It covers the political, economic, military, and social aspects of your country. My question is about the FARC. What you think is the impact of the FARC in the Andean region, and if you think that it is a threat or represents a threat for the Western Hemisphere. Thank you.
Someone very important in this country asked me 3 weeks ago, Mr. President, do you consider that the progress Colombia has made is irreversible? And my answer was, not yet. We have weakened FARC, and we have weakened all the terrorist groups. FARC has diminished a lot in this administration. But this narco-trafficking terrorist organization still has the power to create many problems. For us to advance, we need effectiveness in all the countries against this organization. If this organization can find hideouts in other countries, this organization will never have the disposition, the likelihood to negotiate in Colombia. Those wanting negotiation in Colombia should understand that the best way to fulfill their wishes is by pressing FARC, not by giving FARC hideouts. And you should know that this is not a question of ideology. This is a question of narco-trafficking. In Saturday, the day before we left Colombia, we visited one remote area. Its name is San Jose del Guaviare, where we have advanced a lot in illicit drugs eradication and in providing people with social advances in health, in education, in electricity, in other utilities. This is not a paradise, but it is a place making progress. Before yesterday, the mayor and the city councilors went to other rural community, 40 kilometers far away from the small capital city of the province, and they were fired by FARC. FARC attacked them with explosives. The president of the city council is kidnapped. He was kidnapped 36 hours ago by FARC. And the members of FARC who produced that attack were furious, angry, because the city council had been unable to stop my government from advancing in illicit drugs eradication. This is a new evidence that in Colombia, as well in the international community, we need to make these groups equivalent to narco, trafficking, terrorist groups. But my government has all the determination to fight them. We need much more results, but we do not lack determination. And we have been very generous. During the 90s, Colombia saw the reinsertion of 4,000 people. During our administration, we have received the demobilization, and we are in the process to reinsert over 50,000 people. We are as strong to fight them when they remain in violent activities, are generous to receive them when they rethink their role, they demobilize, and they want to come to terms with our Constitution.
Mr. Investor.
Mr. President, Timothy Towell, retired U.S. diplomat. By an accident of geography, you have as a neighbor, a near neighbor, a very folkloric and theatrical chief of state who does not wish you well, does not wish the wonderful people of Colombia well, and blocks some of the wonderful three-pillar programs of your dynamic team here. This afternoon at 3 o'clock, will you instruct your distinguished foreign minister when they meet on the complicated constitutional issue of Honduras and constitutional government to play a constructive role in blocking the effort of your folkloric neighbor to hijack the inter-American system?
You know how prudent I should be in referring to international affairs. If I cannot bear the burden of St. Paulus, how can I bear over my shoulders the burden of St. Peter? You know how difficult it is for the president of a country with the problems Colombia faces to refer to international affairs. We have to be very respectful. We ask for cooperation. We want conditions for investment rate with social responsibility in all the region. We want freedoms, independent institutions. We want every country to meet the standards of every modern democracy, and we have to be very respectful. We ask for cooperation. We say, if you want the peace in Colombia, please help us in fighting these people, in not allowing these people to find hideouts overseas. We request cooperation, but we do this with all the respect. Referring to Honduras, the Minister of Foreign Relations has intervened a lot during this week. Yesterday we had the opportunity to exchange ideas about this case with President Obama. And I repeat, we need full respect for democratic decisions in every country. We need to respect the decisions made by people participation in accordance with the Constitution and with the law of every country. We need to respect political rights, and at the same time, we need to be totally unbiased in the principle of respecting the right of every country to determine its own path. We agree with the principle of respecting democracy in every country and with the principle of non-intervention. But the principle of non-intervention cannot admit biases. I cannot say, today I disagree with intervention, and at the same time tomorrow, in a different circumstance, to accommodate my interest, to say, today we need intervention, today we don't need intervention. The principle of non-intervention should be a permanent, a constant decision. Because many times with intervention, you create political problems inside any country. Intervention creates problems. And because of problems, you disrupt democratic institutions. Therefore, there is a connection between the principle of non-intervention with the principle of respecting the right of every country to determine its own destiny by democratic and constitutional means.
Jose.
Thank you, Lee. Mr. President, Jose Raul Perales, Latin American Program, Wilson Center. Mr. President, in the midst of an economic crisis, as we're living here, President Obama has focused a substantial portion of his efforts towards the domestic agenda, and in a sense, has the trade and international agenda in this regard has taken a back seat. That we anticipate will change sometime soon. You just met with President Obama, and of course, the FTA is very much a pending issue in the bilateral agenda. What road do you see ahead in working with the administration and with the Democratic Congress for Colombia's FTA and its prospects for moving ahead in Congress?
Yesterday, the conversation with President Obama was very constructive. I found him very interested in moving ahead with Colombia in the whole points of our relationships and in the specific point of the free trade agreement. The free trade agreement with Colombia is a question of politics. It's a signal of confidence, of friendship. It's convenient for both countries. The only way for Colombia to provide some communities with real alternatives to narcotics, to the narco-trafficking economy, is through investment. And the free trade, we don't see the possibility to increase our exports to the United States in the near future. Indeed, this year we have seen a reduction, a huge reduction in our exports to the United States. Please keep in mind some cities, such as Pereira, Ibagué, and Medellin, my city, that have fought a lot to overcome terrorism. My city has sustained a big battle against the cartels or narco-trafficking. My city has advanced a lot, but my city has specialized in exporting apparels, in exporting textiles, and the main market is the United States. And this year, because of the decline in this market, my city has seen an increase in the unemployment rate up to 18%. Therefore, I accept that we don't see possibilities to increase exports dramatically to the United States in the short term. But we need the free trade agreement as a signal for investors from all over the world to be much more confident in Colombia. it is quite difficult for my government to invite investors, Colombian and international investors, to put their money in Colombia when they ask, oh, I want to put my money in Colombia, but why the United States has not approved yet the free trade agreement with Colombia? In a country with 46 million people, the only way for us to prosper is by having access to all the markets, to all the customers, to all the suppliers, to integrate to the international economy. And the free trade agreement with the United States is a key step. It is quite difficult to negotiate with other countries. And our Minister of Trade has a great goal for the end of our administration. He has compared how close our economy was at the moment our administration began and how integrated to the world economy our economy should be by the end of this second term, by August next year. But we find one difficulty. Some countries ask, well, now, Colombian, you want to negotiate with me, but explain to me why the United States has not approved the free trade agreement with Colombia yet. Therefore, it is a necessary signal for our country. And for instance, there are problems. The labor problem. And your question gives me the opportunity to refer to this problem. First, what is the cause? I was a university student at a public university in the 70s, and I remember the Marxist guerrillas. After the Cuban Revolution, Colombia was one of the two main targets for Marxist guerrillas in our subcontinent. And Marxist guerrillas brought to our country the idea of the combination of all forms of struggle. They killed and kidnapped, and at the same time, they penetrated the labor movement, the students' movement, journalists, politicians. And they created the cruelty paramilitary reaction. And paramilitaries did the same. And paramilitaries began to kill trade unionists, accusing them of being guerrillas collaborators. And in vengeance, guerrillas began to kill them, accusing them of being traitors. This is the situation, the complexity my government found. Since far before the beginning of negotiation with the United States, since prior to our election, we proposed to Colombians a policy on security with democratic values. And I wrote a democratic manifesto composed of 100 points. And in the point 27, I wrote, if we win the elections, we are going to do our best to provide Colombians with security with democratic values, to protect teachers, trade unionists, mayors, city councilors. Colombia has 1,102 municipalities. The mayors and the governors are elected directly by the people, and they have many, many political origins. When my government began, more than 400 mayors could not attend their cities because of the threat they received from terrorist organizations. More than 250 trade unionists were killed year by year. We have reduced this number. Last year we had 38. This year so far, 17. We are not satisfied. We need 0 cases. While the general rate of homicides in Colombia is 33 per every 100,000 people, in this specific case, the rate is in between 2 and 3 per every 100,000 members of these groups. But we want 0 cases. I want to repeat, we have 2,000 trade unionists with individual protection provided by the government. And this protection has been very, very effective. No one with this protection has been killed in overcoming impunity. Under the umbrella of the International Labour Organization, we have agreed in a tripartite agreement, employers, workers, and government, to give more resources to the Justice Administration and to work with the Justice Administration to overcome impunity. Please pay attention to these numbers. Before our administration, Colombia had 2 rulings against killers of trade unionists. Today we have 195. Today we have 175 people in jail because they have been convicted or they have been indicted for killings of trade unionists. Therefore, we have advanced in protection, we have advanced in overcoming impunity. We have dismantled one threat, paramilitaries. Today, the cases that have 2 sources. One source is FARC, and the other source corresponds to isolated cases. We say that we have made progress, but we want 0 cases. We accept that we need to do much more. In the case of labor rules, we have advanced a lot. Last year, we approved 2 very important laws. One law transferred the power to say if any strike is illegal, we transfer this power from the executive to the Justice Administration. We have restricted cooperatives. We have introduced a ban for cooperatives. Therefore, they can no longer be labor intermediaries. If they want to work, they have to pay to the shareholders all the social benefits, and they cannot act as labor intermediaries. Before leaving the country, I signed a new law approved by Congress in the last weeks. In accordance with this new law, Colombia today has a longer time, what you call in the United States statute limitations, a longer time for the expiration of the possibility to propose any legal action against those criminals blamed for having killed trade unionists, human rights defenders. For 17 years, Colombia was in the blacklist of the International Labour Organization. Only during the last 3 years, my country has been taken away of that list. And for first year, this year, 3 weeks ago, the International Labour Organization has said that Colombia is a country making progress. Therefore, we accept that we have many problems to be solved, but we have advanced a lot. My government, in the middle of this economic crisis, has opposed the idea of many Colombians to drop by law many of the social benefits that our laws have created for workers. In Colombia, to work in the formal economy is very expensive. However, we defend the rights of the workers in the name of fraternity. We want not to make all Colombians informal. We want step by step to formalize the economy, to provide our workers with high-quality jobs, with affiliation to the social security system. We have advanced a lot in this, and now we have approved a new law imposing the government the obligation to put money to guarantee income at the moment of the retirement for those in the informal economy who are vulnerable and who have no expectations to get a pension. Therefore, we are trying to do our best in Colombia, and we need your help. I have said to my fellow country citizens, any free trade agreement with any democratic country, such as the case of the United States, the case of Europe, is a new source to protect the rights of the workers. It's a new source to protect the rights of the vulnerable people. Therefore, we accept that we need much more results to get, but we need your help. And one way is by giving Colombia the opportunity to have this signal of confidence that is the approval of the free trade agreement.
I think the final question will have to be from Hattie Babbitt.
Hello, I'm a Washington lawyer. I'm also a member of a much more elite group, which is that I'm a former Woodrow Wilson Center scholar. I have a question about internally displaced people in Colombia. As you know, and this audience knows, Colombia has the second largest number of IDPs, or internally displaced persons, in the world. You have a man who probably qualifies for sainthood, Frank Pearl, who has taken on that job, but it's a big job, and I wish you would talk a little bit more to us about your plans for expanding the scope of what he's doing and you are doing with this very, very large population.
Yes, we have two projects. One project to attend internal displaced people, and the other project to attend reinserted people, those coming from the terrorist groups. To attend internal displaced people, we have increased our budget 12 times. For many people, this is a very negative incentive. Last year, in the number of internal displaced people we did register, there were 156,000 people who were in accordance with their declaration. They were displaced in between 1957 and 1987. Therefore, our generous policy regarding internal displaced people has invited people displaced even in the middle of the last century to come to the registration office and to request for their benefits. It is generosity, but at the same time, it is a big problem for our country. With internal displaced people, we have advanced a lot in education, in healthcare, in subsidies, for them to free from paying anything for the reason of tuition, for them to guarantee their children school attendance. We lag behind in social housing. If I were asked by you, what is the main problem, your main concern about internal displaced people, I want to confess, we lag behind in social housing. Let me repeat, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have made progress, but we need many, many problems. And my government is the first to acknowledge that we need to figure out how to overcome these problems. The International Red Cross has helped us a lot in reacting to attend internal displaced people. I have introduced a new decision. There are 3 sources of displacement at this moment. These 3 sources are places in remote, rural areas in the middle of the jungle. We have said to the International Red Cross that please talk to our military. And we have said to our military that please contact the International Red Cross to inform the International Red Cross in advance about our military operations against narco-terrorists. For the International Red Cross to helping us in created links of confidence with the communities living in these areas, especially with the indigenous communities, for them not to displace as a consequence of our military operations. In some areas of the country, we have succeeded in creating what I call liaisons of confidence between the military and the community. One example is the case of Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. I remember 5 years ago, I visited this area, and Mamus, who are the chiefs in this indigenous community, said to me, Mr. President, we cannot trust. 2 days ago, we received a visit of people in uniform. They were guerrillas. The next morning, we received a visit of people in the same uniform. They were paramilitaries. And this morning, before your visit, we received a new delegation of people in uniform. They said they are soldiers. We cannot trust. That day, we created, in this friendly discussion with the indigenous community, the figure of the liaison of confidence. We appointed a colonel in the army as the permanent liaison of confidence. And he has built a lot of confidence in this area. Now we want to spread this positive experience to other areas of the country, to create confidence and to try through this tool to diminish the number of displaced people.
I know there are a number of hands up. We're sorry we cannot take any more questions because of the President's schedule. I will ask that you remain in your seats while the President and his party departs. Let's express our appreciation to President Uribe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Beautifully done. You probably should depart.